please.
Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
All right, welcome everyone. Call to order the Thursday, May 16, 2024 East Lampeter Township Emergency Services Committee regular meeting. We'll go through the attendance in a moment, but let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I believe we have the required number for a quorum today. Dana is here. Maybe we'll just go around the horn very quickly and introduce ourselves once again. Let's start on our just up here at the board, and then we'll go to the audience.
Jason Byler, Lafayette Fire Representative.
Mike Kramer, Whitmer Fire Alternate.
Chad Engler, Citizen Rep for Whitmer.
Eric Bergstrom, Citizen Rep for Lafayette.
John Petersheim, hand-in-hand Citizen Rep.
And Mike Thornton, Supervisor.
Paul Fisher, hand-in-hand Fire Company Rep.
Dana Ormerod, Citizen Rep.
Stephanie Johnson, Citizen.
And online we have Dave Gribble. And Melanie, is that Melanie McKinnon? Okay, and Melanie McKinnon. Okay, great. And in our audience tonight, would you just introduce yourself, Chief? We'll start with you.
Dave Keynes, Lafayette Alternate.
Susan Sutton, community member, fire company member.
Jeff Keynes, Deputy Fire Chief, Lafayette Fire Company, and the truck committee.
Thanks, sir.
Nate Church, Ross Alternate.
Yes, sir.
Road Township Supervisor.
Good to see you, Roger. All right, moving on in our agenda, we'll need approval of minutes of the March 21st, 2024 regular meeting. You have a motion?
Make the motion that we accept as. I'll second that.
Motion and the second. Any discussion on those minutes as presented? Hearing none, we'll vote on that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And item 4, old business. We have a report from our fire apparatus replacement committees, and we'll start with hand in hand.
We have no update at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Very good. And Lafayette.
Go through the other stuff and then do the presentation. If you want us to do the presentation now, however you want to like us to proceed.
Well, we don't have any others now. Any suggestions on the time? I think we can do it. Yeah, let's do it again. Okay. Yeah. If you stand up here, microphones will pick you up. Yeah.
So kind of just a little history. Of course, Deputy Chief Keynes was the chairperson for our truck committee. I was not, I would say, actively involved in it. Just kept tabs on it, addressed whatever needs it. Information, monetary wise. So we'll start here. The next slide. Just start with a couple here, and then I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Keys to kind of go through more details. So our committee consists of 5 members. I was Assistant Chief Dylan Lead, in addition to obviously Deputy Chief Keens, Scott Hershey, Howard Hershey, and Roger Neuenschwander. When I put this committee together, it was designed to be a committee that had quite a vast array of experience, and combined, they all have about 115 plus years of experience. And some of these guys aren't even 40 years old. They're on that committee. So several of them have ran at other departments and have run labs, mid-mount platforms, and actually 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have run other fire stations that have ladder trucks. So we had a wealth of experience to pull from that way, with a wealth of manufacturers. So we initially set out looking at a refurbishment versus replacement. And we ultimately found that basically it wasn't feasible. We were getting basically the same thing that I think Bert and Hannah looked into, is it's all, unfortunately, with most of this apparatus, it becomes sort of proprietary to the manufacturer. So our only real option for a refurb would be Pierce. And that turned out to be a $1.2 to $1.5 million price tag. Part of that was also due in the fact that we asked them to throw in kind of that estimates, all new electronics, which Deputy Chief Keens will touch on some current issues we're having with it currently. So I met with 3 vendors, Seagrave, Eagle, and Pierce, all solid, good, reputable companies, and they began to kind of narrow that down based on what we felt the community needed, as well as our membership input. And we, did take into account, what's the next 20 years in the township look like? We have the streetscape, we have a number of, developments, building coming up. How is that going to affect our operations? So we got some ballpark numbers back initially. Seagrave was just kind of way out of range price-wise, not even close. So we kind of eliminated them early on just due to that factor alone. And we ultimately discussed about the membership, kind of whether we wanted to go with a platform like we currently have, or a ladder. And then they ultimately chose to, along with the committee, go with the ladder. It's kind of where the main work then started to begin from there.
And just a quick platform versus ladder, just for anyone else listening, could you give us a quick explanation?
So typically a ladder is just that. There's no nice flat spot to stand on when you're at the top of that thing. You're on a ladder. No bucket. With a platform, and you have a bucket stand. It's advantage and disadvantages to both. Deputy Chief Keens will kind of go through some of that to tell you kind of how we arrived at where we did. But I wanted to offer just a little history before I turn it over to him. The first ladder truck in East Lampeter Township was a 1986 Mack with a 75-foot ladder. It was an on a platform, which we purchased in 1986 for a cost of about $240,000. Fast forward to 2007, we decided to move to a 95-foot mid-mount platform. And at the time, a lot of the reason we switched to a platform had to do with the other aerial apparatus around us. There was not the amount of platforms around. Gordonville's now come into play since then with their truck. Additionally, Eden at the time had a platform. However, at that time, they switched back to a ladder. So we wanted to have that kind of versatility given the multi-story buildings we have within the township. And so at that point in time, that was purchased under the current, or actually the prior apparatus plan, the initial one that was created. And that was a 50-50 split and ran right around $980,000 at the time. So that's kind of just leading up to where we're at now. I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Keens to take it from here.
This thing work. Hey. What is wrong already?
It's a little thin.
He doesn't want to go to the. Okay, so our current truck. We've had it for quite a number of years. I'm sure everybody's seen it out on different calls and whatnot. 2007, got it. First of its kind that we've had around here for us, coming off of the straight stick 75-foot, more or less Quint that we had before. Detroit diesel 525 engine. Thought we'd have tons of power, but the equipment we put on it, it's not exactly the most powerful thing in the world, but it gets us from point A to point B. And it comes with a 90,000 built-in area. Now, please keep in mind that is not so much for height, but it is for reach. And I say it gets us to about 98% of where we need to go, okay? A lot of the stuff we do struggle with is just going to be some of those areas that have really long yards. We'll have to get back in a driveway, which is very important as we train with our partners out here in the township to say, hey, if we can get that front of the building, we're going to be in good shape. It has an 18-foot H-style outrigger spread. And what I mean by that is the outriggers come out and then they go down. So in the next slide, I'll have a better demonstration of that. But at the time, 18 foot was probably about best it's gotten. 20 kW generator, 2000 GPM waterway, and it is extra, meaning it does not have a pump to it. So if we're going to put this thing in operation to flow heavy water over Lawrence Fire, we need a dedicated engine to supply us. We talk about, hey, where are people working? Are you going to be functioning as a truck, or are you going to be functioning as an engine company? You start blurring the lines, you really start breaking down manpower, which is why it's better to keep those separate dedicated jobs to one or the other. Ladder complement. Without the actual breakdown reading in here, we have 210 feet of total ground ladders on our current truck. So just kind of keep that number in the back of your mind for right now. Unit weight being mostly stainless steel with a steel aerial is 82,000 pounds. That is a very heavy vehicle. We do not take this thing off-road unless it is a life or death type of scenario, in which case we will run that into a yard, but likelihood is it's going to sink, okay? Aerial weight capacity, 1,000 pounds you can put in that bucket. 3 people, gear, equipment on there, or if we were flowing water due to the weight of the added water in the piping system is 500 pounds wet, okay? Longevity concerns, where we're at right now. We're having a lot of little nickel and dime things go wrong with this. The generator's having issues, the modules are going to probably have 3 or 4 different electronic modules go bad a year. Maybe the lights can't get the aerial, that the truck doesn't want to have turn signals. And sometimes it's little things, but it's one of the major ones. Like the aerial, that's a huge problem. Fire. Okay. You only have seconds. Now we're going to take minutes, shut the vehicle down, restart it, and hope to get it back in operation. But as most of us know, hope is not a plan. So we need this to work in an emergency. Okay. Generator replacement. We're looking $20,000 to $30,000 right there. Okay, we've been keeping this thing on life support for a better part of about 2 years, and within the last year or so, we've really started having some issues. We'll get back from a call. It sounds like the thing is starting to oscillate. It'll go, the lights will surge, and then it just craps out. Once again, if we're using equipment in a life or death scenario, to worry whether my equipment is functioning, we're going to fail. It needs to be there. It needs to be dependent. Okay. Once again, that intermittent ladder PTO issue that kind of wants to cut in and out, usually it traces back to one of the modules. So the ongoing replacement of electronic modules is roughly 3,000 to 15,000 per course. It gets very expensive when you start talking electronics. And each one of those modules is proprietary to Pierce. We can't take it anywhere else and say, hey, I'm just going to plug and play like a computer hard drive. So the big question of interest from the township chiefs, as well as other people, including our membership. Platform versus ladder, why A, why B? Well, advantages of a ladder, we have much better maneuverability. We can swing it, it's a little bit less space, a little bit less length than some of the towers. It's longer. It's the way the mid-mount tower is shaped. You have your turntable in the center, it runs the entire rest of that body length, or you're going to have a bucket hanging off the end of it. Less street space for setup. Okay, we'll see in a future slide here how we're setting this up. And the new outriggers that are out there on the market, especially the one that we have chosen as the membership. Okay, better positioning. So while mid-mount tower, you pull up straight, you can operate off the one side or the other. Push this off the front, and the second best is off the back. With a straight stick, you can work off the back, left, or the right with minimal interference with the body playing in there. Pull right up to the building, put your aerial to the roof, wherever you need to go, and go. Okay. More parking space. So without a lot of mechanical things kind of hanging out in the way, we can actually put more equipment and have more compartments on there. Driver training, without having to do extra positioning, we can go right in, like I spoke to before. Increased ground ladders, visibility for rescues. I performed a couple rescues off of the bucket. If you're digging down below, you cannot see who your patient is, what you're doing, or anything of that type. If you're working to cut a roof off the top of a ladder, you have the bucket in. You either have to kind of hang out over the top of the door, or you have a tether onto you, fall protection one. The door is approximately about 3 or 4 feet high. So now you have to reach over top, and even then you may not get to what you need to. Okay. The advantage with the ladder, right out to the end, or it can lean over the side, So quite as high and have full visibility if I have to do any type of ropes or riggings to say pull a patient out of a basement or any other below grade structure. We can get right through and do what we need to. And also a lower unit weight. Okay. Primarily what we looked with ours, we have some aluminum built in, newer style aluminum, has some of that good strength of steel and probably about half of the weight. So it's not nearly as much as our prior ladder truck at the 82,000 pound. So let's talk Pierce. This is what we're looking at. Current lead time is about 48 plus months with the Pierce option. We looked at 105 foot steel area. Okay, nice and strong like we have now. The outriggers have changed. The current truck is an 18 foot. What we're moving to here with the newer style is a 15 foot jack. So it's a lot less, brings it in on both sides. But you can see it still has that H style to it. Okay. 10 kW generator with the with LEDs being more, okay, the demand for the generators not nearly as bad as the older school halogens would have been back in 2007 truck. So we have the ability to get a smaller generator, run the same equipment, also maximizing on batteries as well. 1500 GPM waterway with a pure 5-inch inlet. Okay, aerial weight capacity is 750 pounds dry and 500 wet. Okay, when you put 2 or 3 firemen on the end of that, you're probably about there. But at the same time, is it really safe and is it practical to have people on the very end? You do. Aerial weight capacity, unit weight, about 77,000. Overall, the structure and the construction of this vehicle is still mostly steel. Okay, so you still have that weight. Yes, technology's changed a little bit, so certain things are a little bit less in weight, but overall, it's still very heavy, and that's without equipment. Ladder complement, 238 feet of total ground ladders, 235s, 28, 224s, 214s, 2 sections, 114, 2 sections, 3 16-foot straights, a 20-foot roof ladder, and a 10-foot attic. In comparison to the 210 with that. So really interesting. There we go. Okay, so here's a basic drawing of the Pierce truck that we had spec'd for us. Overall, it's a pretty nice vehicle. 105-foot aerial on the top, color scheme to match our engine too. But you're going to notice it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 compartments along the side. Okay, the very first compartment closest to the cab is transverse, meaning it goes the entire way across, and it is one very large compartment that goes that. Okay, so whether we put a shelf in there that you can pull out from either side, that has yet to be determined. But some of that space will start to get to the point where, okay, can we maximize the space we have, or we're going to have some dead zone in there. Coming to the other side, vehicle. Up on the top left-hand corner, you're going to see there are 2 compartments that flip up. That is transverse coming to the other side here, that one large compartment. There were some concerns with the committee that with this area, would it be fully utilized to its maximum potential? While yes, it is compartment space, and we could probably put items in there that run the entire way across, some of our members are not as, well, they're vertically challenged. Would they be able to get in there? Can they access it? And if they're around and nobody else is to help them get stuff out, is it really value added? Is it in our best interest to have something like that? Okay. So it was just one of our concerns, but overall it did have a decent amount of space. Thank you. Appreciate that. I might just start asking you to flip it. So let's talk the E1 option now. Currently 36 to 48 month lead time. Okay, a little bit less than the Pierce. What we have spec is a 100-foot CR100 area. Okay, so heavier weight area. With the outriggers, 13-foot low profile X style outriggers. So while you remember the 14-foot H style, these are 13, they're low profile. It's a completely separate design because where these attach to is not necessarily going into the frame, but they have a patented torque box that they have into their vehicle that runs the length of the vehicle. That's where it is going to attach to. So it's a completely different stabilization system than what we're mostly used to. Same 10 kW generator, 1500 GPM waterway with the 5-inch inlet. That's still exactly the same. Aerial capacity, 800 dry, 550 wet. So ever so slightly more than the other. We actually got to put this to the test when we were checking out one of their vehicles. Sales rep came up, we had the aerial down about 3 feet off the ground. He goes, okay, there's 5 or 6 of you guys here. Step on there. I'm 220 pounds. If there's 7 of us on the end of this thing, you think it would flex? It did not. It moved about 2 inches. I was very impressed by this. And that's well exceeding that typical one. But he wanted to say, hey, while this is not recommended, we just want to show you this is the capability of what you have. So in an emergency, if we had to make a streamline out of some of our high rises, we could do that, get people out. Unit weight between 65, 70,000 pounds, give or take 5,000 pounds in there. Granted, this is without equipment again, okay? Because the body in the aerial is mostly aluminum. High strength, lower weight. We could take this and set this up without the use of additional pads if we had to. It's still recommended that you do, but in a life or death scenario, you can set it up and off we go. No messing around with extra stuff. Ladder complement, okay? 2 35-foot ladders, 128, 2 24-foot ladders, a 20, 2 16s, which are 2-section, 2 16s, which are roof ladders, straights, a 14, a 12, and a 10. The total of 266 feet of ground ladders. So compared to our current 210, much, much more. And it blows the pierce out. Next slide, please. So here's the breakdown. If you look at the compartmentation on this, it is very similar to our current design, where we have a lot of options where we can put equipment, the equipment that you can put on here. But bear in mind, a lot of the equipment will be coming from truck. You will not have to buy extra equipment. At least not very much. Maybe a couple light pods and the walking stuff like that. But for the most part, everything is going to transfer. Okay, you advance one more. So that's the officer side. There it is again. So that first compartment, once again, is transverse. You put a tray in there, run it out full length, and put whatever equipment on there that we so need for quick access. It's horrible. There we go. Here's the driver's side. So we have 3, 4, 5 compartments once again. Compared to our competitor, it's the exact same. Some of these compartments are a little bit smaller in width, but we have more versatility and the exact same side stack ladders on this vehicle as well. So next slide. Okay, so when we talk space setup, all right, E1 ladder here is on the left. This is a picture I had taken when we went down to see some of the vehicles at the manufacturer. See how close to the vehicle that 13-foot spread gets us, and that's actually our maximum spread right there, 13-foot. Compared to where we're at currently in the middle, an 18-foot, and then the Pierce ladder truck is 14. While the 14 is much more manageable than the 18, the 13-foot really takes the cake. It does not create much of a tripping hazard or street space, so we can get even closer to a building or stay away from traffic should we need to set up.
So it doesn't change at all the stability factor. You're saying just because of their design, the engineering design.
Yep, a little bit different design, and we were able to test this vehicle out there. It does not move. I'm impressed.
What have been your problem? What have been your problems with your current truck? And that,
Just the amount of space that they take up. So if we go into the city, Orange Street, Clark Street, things like that, in our area of Lancaster Township, we head into Bentley Ridge at nighttime when there's all kinds of cars. Moving all of those out the full way really creates a lot of space problems because we don't want to hit vehicles that may be parked on either side of the street. We ran an assist to Whitmer not that long ago. Some of the cops come in, and I appreciate their help, but sometimes when we need to set up over here, it really stifles what we can do just because the sheer amount of width. There's vehicles going up there as well. So having a low profile design, very helpful.
that 13 would you have been in better shape?
Absolutely. With that low profile design, it enables us to go get underneath vehicles at some point, depending on what we get, especially more vehicles like trucks. Any other questions before I continue?
It looked like a tripping hazard to me.
They can be, we labeled them appropriately because of that. Even with the other design, all of them will stick out and can be some form of tripping hazard. With that, we've added additional reflectivity and lights to them as well, so they stand out more. And they're
Is that the green on them there? The,
yes.
it's a green, you're
Yes.
saying?
It's just not island.
Right. So with the outriggers, they actually serve as a dual role. There can be anchor points as well if we had to do any type of rescue. We put anchor points on them, so when we run them out, we can attach right to them and use them as a change of direction, whatever we would have to. Any other questions? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, with the E1, while the Pierce offers a remote option, it does not have some of the capabilities that the E1 does. We were able to go down. This operates on somewhat of almost like a crane remote. If anybody has worked in industry, okay, we can run the aerial up, you can run it down, you can run it out, you can go left, you can right, and you can set the outriggers up for the safety of the ground if you needed to. Now, while as before you're staying back holding a button, you're also fighting firemen coming back with that rear compartment to try and get ladders. You're trying to do this little bit of a juggle here when people are coming back to get necessary supplies. What this enables people to do, stand out of the way, stand at the front of the truck, have the same safety visibility where you're running your outriggers, be completely out of the way of the truck. Okay, with this, okay, it offers range. If there is some kind of immediately dangerous to life or health atmosphere, maybe we need to set up, and you're gonna set up the truck to flow, but I need to be way over there because of some chemical that's coming out. I can do that now, rather than have to stand in a danger or a hot zone where you're potentially gonna have some kind of firefighter exposure. We don't wanna have that. I can set the outriggers up, I can fly it, operate the nozzle wherever I need to be, okay? With this, while everybody's setting up, the operator of that vehicle can then fly the aerial right to the roof and be prepared. So when the firemen are ready, ground ladders are thrown up, right to the roof. Next slide, please. Prices and recommendation, okay? The initial hard bids that we got back, the E1 came in at 1.795 million, and the Pierce was right around them at 1.78. They were almost negative. Okay. With this does not include an upcharge of approximately $100,000 for what we will have to do in 2027 to have a 2027 emissions compliant engine. That is from all manufacturers, and there's no way we can get out of that. So unfortunately, that has to be roped in with this as well. The advantages of an E1, remote operation, service. The lead time at the time was perfect. Ladders, get the most ground ladders. And most of us know when you're going into a fire, I can get a quick save or I can get set up with a ground much faster than I can the aerial. Okay, so we have more capability there. The compartmentation is more, very similar to what we have now. So the ease of training, less dead space. So we don't have that top stuff where maybe I can put a couple items, but other than that, it's just going to be void space up in there. 1 foot less in overall length than the Pierce. Okay, that really helps us with cornering, maneuvering, getting into tight spots. We don't have as much tail swing. Okay, and the torque box construction. So we talked about things with our company and the membership. Each step of the way, very similar to what we did tonight. We took it to the membership to get their buy-in. Okay. Their suggestions were critical in building this to what we have and I'm presenting here today. The Lafayette Truck Committee, the line officers, the membership, and the board of directors have approved the current plan. Preliminary plan, specs, and info was sent to the chiefs. Got favorable feedback with that on 4 of 2024. So in April, we sent it out to the chiefs, had a couple questions about why A or B, answered that to the best of our capability. Next slide, please.
Well, proprietary, you talked about Pierce having a lot of proprietary modules, whatever. How about the other one, the E1?
E1 does not have as much proprietary stuff. So a lot of the coding and software, and this was also key that we had asked about, hey, what happens if we have an issue with, oh, we can just get so-and-so at the garage, doesn't matter where you take it, they can get in there and they can change the system. So it's not as much red tape that we'll have to go through when troubleshooting some of those type of issues down the line should we have them.
So ongoing maintenance costs for the truck would be lower for E1.
It's they make a great piece. I had the opportunity to run with Gap, who has an E1 that they bought. I'm going to say probably around 2002, and it was a solid piece for them. Very few maintenance issues. That's on a lower unit, and they're actually replacing theirs currently with something very similar to what we're looking at here as well. So they've definitely been out there. They've been proven nice, solid, well thought out design. So we did then make a few little changes, put it out for a final contract number. The E1, we had basically about 15,000 and just some miscellaneous changes. The main jump from that initial bid of the 1.795 to 1.91 is that includes that 100,000 allowance for the engine requirements that we'll get from the EPA in 2027. And we got that same number from Pierce. I think Seagrave was quoting something similar early on. So it's one of those things that doesn't matter who you're going with, it's going to have a big impact on pricing of apparatus. Quote we had also, we did put 75,000 in there for equipment mounting. Again, anything that comes in less, same thing with the motor. You know, if that $100,000 isn't 100,000, we'll get the balance of that if it comes in, say 60,000. Same thing with the mounting of equipment. We feel that should definitely cover us solidly with that as well. The contract we got is valid through June 6th. And one thing about E1 is they are requiring no payments until 7 days after our final inspection. So no upfront money from us or the township needed. So we're basically about ready to take delivery. To break that down, cost of funding. So our plan is a 60-40 split. That would leave the township with 1.146 million. The fire company would need to supply 764,000. So where that money's coming from, currently we have about 215,000 in our apparatus fund. We kind of have over the last couple of years set aside certain fundraisers and things that automatically get dumped into that fund. We anticipate that being at 275, probably realistically higher come time to buy it. In 2028. So we're looking at the delivery in February 2028. In the finance subcommittee, I noticed some concern because obviously with the long lead times, Birmingham is getting their engine much later than they had anticipated. Obviously ours was scheduled for, I believe, it was 27, 26. So obviously we're later as well. You're still on target for 27?
I think so, yeah, but it's,
anything can happen.
talking 3 years out, it could definitely vary, yeah, so.
So hopefully that should alleviate, at least from a calendar year perspective, of both of them falling in the same year. We also will have the sale proceeds of the existing truck. This is a real wild card because who knows what the market's going to bring, but we anticipate to be it's still decent market 4 years from now for used apparatus. We're projecting roughly 300,000 resale value. It could be more than that, could be less than that. And basically of that, obviously 50%, because that was purchased under the apparatus plan, would go back to the township. So I did not deduct that from their portion there, the 1.146. We also deep into a capital campaign, securing a number of different business owners and businesses within our area, trying to secure some chunks of money for that. I anticipate going public with that. It's probably going to be a while down the road yet. We want to kind of secure a solid amount before we go public and make a public appeal with it, trying to gain a lot of steam, a lot of peer-to-peer funding with that. So we anticipate we set a goal for that, ideally of $1 million. It's probably maybe a little high reaching, but we do anticipate that the balance of this we should have no problem with coming up in the capital campaign. If for some reason the economy tanks, things happen, capital campaign doesn't go as planned, at that point in time, our Engine 2 loan will be paid off. We had taken that loan out, not because necessarily we had to, but because we were getting 5 and 6% interest for our money, paying 2% on a loan, again, trying to maximize the return. And so we would, if there would be a need, we would anticipate, and again, at the same time, we're going to look at the interest rates too. If we can still get 5-6%, 4 years from now, we might take out a small portion of a 2% state loan again to keep that money in investment and get a return on that. So that we plan for the 60-40 split. I know at the committee there's been some talk of other percentages, whatever we are comfortable as an organization and a board of our company moving forward with those numbers. And of course, there is not really equipment budget here because pretty much everything we have is loose equipment wise, it's functional, it's usable. We might make a couple small upgrades here or there, but that'll so everything transfer over. So with that, to open up for questions.
Your capital campaign, are you in a quiet phase of that right now? Is that what you're doing? Okay.
We're probably 8 months into that or so, and getting very strong support from high associates with that.
Curiosity, utilization for a truck, is it measured in hours or miles, or how do you measure that? How much has been utilized?
It's both. So they have an hour meter on there, and then obviously they have mileage as well.
And what would the average be like in for a year?
Actually, the call volume, so it is the seventh busiest ladder truck in Lancaster County.
Yeah, it's hard. Hours can be a little deceiving, depending on mileage especially can be very deceiving. Obviously shorter trips, slower speeds can have more wear and tear than cruising the highway. So there's not per se a mileage expectancy out there in the industry that you would anticipate to per se get. It's more your years in call volume is kind of a factor.
And technology, I take it, gets obsolete over a period of time as well.
Yeah.
We tried to build this vehicle with that in mind as well. As technology grows and ages, that this one will still be able to compete as time goes on. We want this vehicle to be around 20 to 25 years, if not more, to serve our community based on whatever need may arise.
Warranties?
Yes, there's a 10-year corrosion warranty on it. I forget what the other warranty is. It's something we can certainly let you know, but the industry is pretty well standard across the board.
That was more my question. Is it standard?
Pretty close.
As you look at a car and say powertrain and so
Its
forth.
lifetime frame, paint's good for 10 years, corrosion's for 10 years. And we actually got that upgraded coating on the underframe due to the road salt, et cetera.
So mechanical, because it has so much that it can do. Is that also a standard on warranties?
Yeah.
I mean, you were describing the electrical issues, that you're having now.
Said E1 didn't require any money, but if you did put money down, would they reduce the price?
So, yeah, they would actually want to put down, they would give us right now our current fund is right around 5.25%, 5.5%. So they know where it's at. And that's a fixed interest rate we're getting. It's not variable. Pierce initially too, they did offer some prepayment discounts, but when you factor in the 4 to 5%, it's a wash. So
The biggest discount would be able to pay 100% upfront, which is not really feasible for us.
at the current time, correct.
Just to clarify, you did get all the feedback you expected to out of the other chiefs when you sent it to them last month? Is that still going on, or is that pretty much there?
Pretty much within a day or two, they all responded to me with any questions they wanted to know, like what size engine it was, why are you switching between a platform to an aerial? And we pretty much vetted it out. There wasn't very many questions.
Are there other safety issues other than, you talked a lot about the platform and how hard it is to work underneath it, side to side. Are there issues with the ladder versus the platform that create safety for?
They both have their own set of separate issues. It's kind of half a dozen, one or the other. We had the opportunity to work off our original 1986 truck. For me personally, really depends on the situation, which I prefer, but most people, the training we go through these days, you got to be comfortable working with it. It's a ground ladder, an aerial ladder, it doesn't matter. So that is really not, again, that comes back to kind of just a training experience issue of anybody. Even if we didn't run an aerial apparatus, you still do a ton of training with ladders. As an engineer.
Bucket, there's a lot of times if you're doing extended buckets, so you set the bucket up there and you're still using that ladder to have equipment up and down, unless it's something that's really big. And with that, we actually made provisions on the tip of this aerial, little hooks, brackets, clamps that we can put the equipment on there. So you still have 3 points of contact. You're not carrying stuff up loose in your hands.
The other thing we found with our platform over the years is sometimes when we get into areas where we have a lot of trees, we have power lines and things, we need a much bigger space to get that ladder up there, get that up there. Need a whole lot of space to be able to get up.
You guys probably, you're much more well-trained in this, but I would think what the difference between rescue and fighting fires, when you have a ladder like yours, is there a percentage difference in how it's used? Those two things, because I could see how a platform be a little easier for people that aren't as mobile to maybe get them out of a high point. But in terms of that versus fighting fire, I don't know if you have any comment to that.
Depends a little bit on the application. I mean, each situation is different. I can say from a rope rescue type scenario, I personally prefer to work with a ladder platform. It's a lot quicker and easier where you're not working around that platform at the end. From a fire perspective, it is that thing into tight places because there's times when you set up and you only have a very, especially with all like construction, where you have all the offset roof lines and things like that. The platform is certainly easier for someone, I'll say a citizen in the event of an issue to, board the platform, come down. But you're also limited capacity there from the standpoint of, while the aerial device does have capacity from a weight perspective, with the ladder, you can just start sending people down if they are a body and take them down. You can still rig your Stokes basket at the end of the ladder, and platforms that really doesn't have an impact on any kind of rescue capability as far as that goes. We have someone who's some basically get them in a Stokes basket to get them down.
Are these outriggers independently movable, each one of them? Or they all have to go fully extended?
Well, you can maneuver them individually. You can maneuver them as a group. There is also an auto level feature with it as well, which is nice. The older apparatus we had did not really have that. The current truck we have does, but it's not as well developed and refined as the apparatus has.
What are the city ladder trucks? What do they have?
They have one of each currently. They have a mid-mount platform, which was a refurbishment that they have, which obviously they didn't have that when we got our current truck. They also have a rear mount ladder, like we're looking at purchasing now. Theirs does have a pump on it, but that's the two apparatuses they have.
The jack spread on their mid-mount is 22 feet.
Yeah, theirs is bigger than ours. Yeah.
Very light. It comes down an A-frame type.
That's what I was asking about.
With this jack spread on this, when you talk about the scissors jacks that come down low, basically there's a lot less interference with automobiles and that kind of thing. When you talk about the H jacks that come out either 14 or 18 foot spread, you can do what's called short jacking. Suppose you can only get them out 10 or 12 feet, but then it limits your abilities with the aerial. You can't get the aerial around, or you can't get it out as far. It's all computer controlled.
Any other questions or comments?
I appreciate everybody's time tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very thorough. Lots of detail there. We know it's challenging, so our best to the committee for their work and everybody else that's contributed, the chiefs and so forth. Yeah.
If I can add one thing, the upgrade to a platform is about $500,000. Additional.
That is one more thing. Okay, we'll move on to be of old business. The subcommittee reports, they've certainly been working this first half of this year, and I think we're coming into a phase here where you can expect more information and some conclusions. So we'll start with public information.
We are getting ready to send out our second quarter. I guess 2-page submission that we'll have again. I'm expecting to have probably a first draft here for the committee within the next week or so, and then we'll be reviewing it. And again, that is, I think I reported at the last meeting, that is going to be talking about the 4 firefighters of the year, one from each company in the township. So we'll be recognizing them. I think the deadline for submission there is in June, here's June 7th or something like that. So we should have that ready for you, no problem for then. And then we need to schedule another meeting to start on the third quarter. But other than that, I know we had a couple items I think we talked about the last time. I don't have them in front of me here now, but we did have a couple kind of ideas for our third and fourth quarter newsletter, but we are always open to other suggestions, ideas on, things that you guys think would be relevant and helpful. So let us know. But yeah, I would expect to have that one rolled out here shortly. So
At the supervisors conference in Hershey, there were examples that people were having of newsletters and so forth, and they had those out. And quite frankly, I meant to bring a couple, but ours just measures right up with them, if not better. It's hard not to see the advantages in them, but it's great work, really, really good stuff. Okay, anything else?
I don't think so. No, unless Susie's on that committee, unless somebody else had anything they wanted to add. That's kind of where we're at. So
Okay, good work. Okay, and finance. Well, you want to go or Ralph?
doesn't matter.
You want to comment, Ralph, or?
Sure. The group did not meet in April, but we did meet earlier this month, had good discussions, primarily focused on the apparatus plan and the funding there, but also talked about operational expenses and costs for all the fire companies. Put out some additional information to the group that plan on talking about at our next meeting in June. And then plan to hopefully come to this July meeting to go over an end product or a suggestion or recommendation to this committee in July.
You had said you thought discussions and the work has been positive.
I think so, yeah.
Good exchange.
Yeah, I thought we had a good couple of meetings.
That's what I'm hearing.
In progress. So yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right. And human resources and volunteerism.
The last meeting we held the 2nd of May, and really good discussions and collaborative efforts as far as discussing next steps for getting baseline data metrics from all 4 fire companies on what kind of staffing we have, both administratively and from a firefighter perspective. And we clarified some of our goals there. And then mutual aid staffing agreements. There were some ride-along policies that were drafted and in review process. And then just in brainstorming sessions, I think it's been really positive as far as some of the benefits of collaboratively thinking about problems that all 4 fire companies are facing. So certificate training at the state and county level is very difficult for some of our fire companies to obtain, or all of our fire companies to obtain. So there's discussion about creating what an ELT standard of training looks like to help expedite and really embrace the energy when somebody comes in the door to volunteer. So recruiting a person is one thing, getting them in the door is the next thing, and the next thing is getting them active and trained up. And if we have hurdles that they have to jump through to get trained, we're finding that across all 4 companies. So it's something that's in discussion, and it's being reviewed by the training officers, and then will be reviewed by chiefs to see if it's something to further pursue. Churchy, were there anything else to add?
Nope.
Short and sweet. Okay, a question about training. COVID gave us a window to do training differently. Not necessarily better or worse, just differently. Stuff that used to be lecture, you now do online, and you do it separately, and then you consolidate the hands-on into a shorter, more compact. Is any of that happening with and can it happen? I guess those 2 things.
That's out of our control, really. That's at the state level. I can tell you that the big factor in getting the classes is the amount of instructors that have dropped out of the system since COVID. People just stopped, retired for whatever reason. We have big difficulty getting instructors, and the state is fully aware of that. And right now, they're just beating the drum trying to get more instructors.
Okay. Well, thanks for that report. I'll just say one more from the conference at Hershey. A lot of talk about the law allowing for tax benefits for volunteers. There was one in particular in Lehigh Valley that was presenting. So and how the county got on board with it, and they feel that it was impacting it. A lot of talk about it was that it wasn't enough to make a significant difference. This is one municipality that felt it did, and so there's lots of people asking for more. I asked for, put me on the email just to find out more about that, but otherwise, it was a celebration in everyone's complaints, because everybody has the same issues. And there's promises at the state level to help with, with money and other initiatives to try and help, because they know it's a problem everywhere. But everybody, it's a challenge, and it just has to be continued to be examined and look for solutions.
We do have on our ongoing agenda, keeping an eye out or an ear to the ground on LoSAP. It obviously would require a discussion with the township ultimately, but it's something that's tabled for our discussion. It's not a priority. Our biggest priority is people on both sides of the firehouses.
Good. Next on the old business agenda, C is calendar activities.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, Kevin did put together the annual financial summary. He is still trying to get some information clarified, so it's all but complete. So I thought it'd be worthwhile just to hand out to everybody tonight, and plan to have it as an agenda item for further discussion at your July meeting.
Okay, so they would have time to kind of comb through it if they have questions or.
Correct.
Do that in July.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there is something that changes between now and then, we'll send it out to everybody rather than wait till the next meeting.
Okay, moving on to item 5, new business. We'll poll our both township and fire companies. Why don't we start with township? Anything in particular?
I guess I'll just ask, ultimately with Lafayette's presentation, their contract is June 6th. They're going to be looking for this committee to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to act on before June 6th. So,
Because there's no guarantee the price is gonna hold after that.
Our next meets on Monday, the 20th, but then also meets again on June 3rd. So those are the two opportunities at board meetings for the board to hear it and act on approving it, if that's what they want to do. So tonight's really the only opportunity to have the committee make their recommendations. So I'm not trying to jump the meeting, but I don't know if you want to do that while it's fresh, or if you want to wait till the end of the meeting, or how.
So you need a motion that we accept and pass on to the Board of Supervisors the request from Lafayette for that specific unit.
Whatever the committee's recommendation to the Board of Supervisors would be.
I'm more than happy to make a motion that we accept the information as provided by Lafayette, that we would pass that on as the request to the Board of Supervisors for them to vote on to move the process forward. Is that good enough? Clear enough?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. And just to clarify, that would be that the motion is to accept the decision of selecting the E1 option for their ladder truck with the details as presented. Does that sound right? Okay, what we're doing? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, well done. Good conclusion to that. Thank you for that, Ralph. Anything else?
Just let me know which meeting.
Afterwards and let you know.
As far as things to mention, if the fire companies have any updates to their drivers list, keep those coming in. Got some receipts here from Lafayette, so any from the fuel system, if they have receipts to hand in, please do that.
The only other two things I want to make sure we mentioned, were the township's website has been, we've been working on it. And, so we now have, on our calendar, links to your calendars, your event calendars. So somebody that's on our website. Did I say that wrong?
Yes.
Okay, Sarah's gonna explain it better than I can.
On the volunteer fire services page, we have links to all of your event calendars. We did not want to link it to our calendar or put it independently in our calendar in the event something changes and then we have misinformation out there. So we put links to each of your event calendars on the fire service page.
Easier to update.
Well, the fire company updates it themselves and then it's the correct information. Yes.
Mhm.
The other thing I want to mention was, we've, engaged a new product called HyperReach, which is a mass communication, product, that, we're learning about and beginning to employ. So, it's out there, for residents who wish to sign up to get alerts, through the system, to sign up, give us their information. Put it out. As a tool for fire service in the future, we would expect that that would be something that we would get to eventually. We're just not quite at that point yet. So I'm sure there's a whole bunch of users that will all be able to make it a good tool.
Would this, if you signed up for it, would it give you something on your cell phone that says there's an accident on such and such and avoid it by going this way or that way?
Yeah, if you put your cell phone in the system as the point of contact, then yeah, whatever information is being put out that you decide you want to get, you'll get it.
That works really well. I was, when I was teaching up in Williamsport, there was a shooting right next to the building that I was going into to teach a class. And I got a beep about 15 minutes before I was supposed to be there. So it was a good service, very good service.
Any phone numbers that are sort of already out there and public have been captured, if you will, by the system. So, yeah, we're still learning how to use it. We're going to use it internally for a while and get accustomed to it, and then eventually start to grow it and put it out there. So we'll be talking with everybody about that when we get to that point.
So Ralph, that's internally, we're testing it now, kind of in that phase of doing it.
We did send out one mass notification for the 30/2/22 closure. So if you got that message, great. If you didn't, you should sign up.
I'll just say too, I think we did a nice job on the website of another source of information for that. And I think it really seemed to work out well. Everybody was anticipating, I think, more difficulties, but I appreciate what the township did with that and sharing what PennDOT information was there and maps.
Only other thing I want to mention, and I'm sure everybody's aware, the U.S. Women's Open is happening at the end of the month, in the early June. So if you were here 9 years ago, you have a pretty good idea what to expect. But if you weren't, it is a busy event. And so we hope it all goes smoothly and the weather holds and they don't have to extend it into the following Monday.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. For township. Okay, our fire companies are next. Let's reverse the alphabetical order. Maybe something related to what you just mentioned, Eric. How about Whitmer? We'll start with Whitmer first.
Back on April 20, we had our Oxford. We sold 3,022 meals. Child Protect vaccine clinic is at the firehouse June 11th. Next blood drive is June 26th, and we're trying something new. June 28th, we're going to host a outdoor community movie night at the firehouse. So try something new and see if we can get some involvement from the community.
In a recent mass.
Last evening, we hosted a mass casualty tabletop at the firehouse. Thanks for the chiefs and officers in the township that attended. We also had other community partners as well, Penn Medicine, the school district, LEMSA, Gordonville. So yeah, it was a great discussion had by all. Be looking to do some more formal training down the road. But that'll be announced later on.
Great community service on that. Good stuff. Thank you. Okay, Rox? Is that you, Dave?
Yeah, we have no new information for the group.
Okay. Thank you. Lafayette?
Yes, we had our spring chicken barbecue. Despite the rising cost of chicken and everything else, it appears as though I don't have the exact final number with me, but it appeared to net about $10,000, which is about what we did last year. Chicken sold out well, had a little bit of pork left over. Got a lot of good community support to help assist with that. Every year, it's a very, obviously, any food fundraiser is labor intensive. And so we managed to be able to continue with the help of the community to keep that one going. It's kind of the old standby. That's a tradition, so to speak. Coming up here June 8th, we have our annual steak cook-off. Event pretty much similar to last year. Susie, anything to add with that? So again, looking forward to another successful event there. Of course, obviously steak prices have gone up. So yeah, just continue to battle that.
Is that growing? Do you have more people coming?
It is, it's an event that really doesn't per se draw as much on the local community. I mean, that's kind of almost like a cult following.
Cult following, yeah. I know one of the cultists.
Yeah, and we get a lot of good feedback from them about our event compared to other ones they attend. It's one of their favorite, for a lot of them, it's one of their favorite ones to come to. So it does kind of steadily grow here year over year. And the nice part about it is it's fairly requirements to make it happen too. So looking forward to that. Also, of course, come August, we have the cadet camp scheduled, so there'll be more information coming out on that. Kim Herskowitz is leading that again, so she'll be in touch with the other companies here as plans are starting to take shape. Doing quite a bit of training right now. To kind of what Susie mentioned earlier, we were able to find an instructor and do an aerial operations, a truck 1 and truck 2 class, 2 different classes. And then some of our mutual aid companies joining with us to make it a full class. We are also participating in a drill with the Lancaster County CERT team coming up in June. They're doing a drill and they want to involve a couple of fire departments in that response, kind of a mental health scenario, getting someone down from heights and working through that process. Other than that, continue to be out there with several different community events, a couple of school events here as the year's wrapping up, and continuing to solicit at Stevens Tech. We always seem to get a person or two out of there every year that runs somewhere else, and while they're here at school, can help contribute here. So.
I was just thinking no more bucket rides.
No more.
Okay. Thanks for that. Lots happening. And hand in hand.
Yeah, we have a couple events coming up here. Starting Saturday morning, we have our town cleanup that we do every year. Probably have 20 to 30, kind of mostly community members, probably half of them are fire company, where we clean up from Linwood Road down under the underpass, down to the post office, both sides of the street, sidewalks and all that. So hopefully you'll notice that when you go through, it looks a little better after everything's cleaned up. We just kind of feel like it's one of those things that we try to do to keep the town looking good and people driving through it. So we have that coming up Saturday morning. I think sometimes we have one of the township police officers come out and kind of help us a little bit with traffic control. Appreciate that. And then May 25th, we have our chicken barbecue coming up, spring barbecue coming up. And June 27th and 28th, we have our auction coming up. So those are a couple of events. One other thing might be of interest to the group. We do have a fairly large ticket cost coming up here. We're going to be replacing the rubber roof on our engine bay this year. Had not anticipated at the beginning of the year. We've been patching it for a number of years now. And we just finally got to the point where it's time to do it. It's the original roof that was put on when we built it in 1990. So it's about, you can do the math there, 34 years old. So we've gotten our money's worth out of it, but that'll probably be around a $35,000 expense. And it was not on the annual expense. We knew it was going to have to be done. We thought maybe we'd get it away another year, but so it is what it is. I think that's about it. I know some of our guys were going out too in the past month to some of the local schools, a little bit of fire safety, fire prevention, and also probably a little bit of recruitment, not retention yet at this point. So we're doing some events like that. And then, I don't know, just ask Don, do you have anything, Don, on firefighting side you want to report on? I think things are going pretty smooth.
Yeah, we're going very well.
Coming out and training and,
Two classes this month yet coming up.
yeah. So, yeah,
Okay.
things are going pretty well, so.
I want to just ask about any student internships. I realized the teacher that we had that was sort of on the beginning of that had moved to another school district. Any movement on that this year? Yeah.
So we actually were able to operate the internship.
Yeah.
We have 3 students from CB School District and basically became Lafayette and Whitmer taking the lead just because it was new and trying to figure it out. But we
Yeah.
did have discussion about it in the Human Resources Subcommittee meeting. Ronson and Birmingham both expressed interest in getting involved. And we also talked about other schools that might be able to follow the same model. So very positive traction in the school. School is happy, interns are happy, and there were a lot of unexpected benefits between Lafayette and Whitmer as far as increased daytime staffing, faster responses to people's emergencies on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and basically just getting really familiar with processes between the 2 fire companies and equipment. So people that don't usually get an opportunity to train were also able to train during the day. So we've seen a lot of unexpected benefits from
Excellent.
the
That's a great report. Okay, nice to hear that. I don't know, we have any EMC feedback? No, at this point. And citizen members, anything from our citizen members? You shared a lot of good information tonight, yeah. I think, coming in, I remember this myself and just having any information about what goes into getting a replacement for, essential equipment that we need. I mean, that was I think a real good education on that for our new members on that tonight. So, okay. And now we'll move on to public comment. Anything from the public to discuss?
I probably should have said something when you asked about us. There's a couple events that are coming up. Victory Church does their Serve Day on July 13th. I know last year we did a lot of work at Whitmer. We did work at Lafayette. So it's, we can come to any fire company and do, I think we painted and pulled weeds and washed windows and did stuff like that. So there's like 25 people at each of the locations. So for the fire companies and even the township, we may be able to get a group of people to do things and help out there. So that's July 13th. And there's going to be a splash day down in Burnham at that big field there where the hot air balloon. And they're expecting like 800 or 900 kids for this splash day. And that's on July 28th from 2 to 5. Maybe a good time to bring some pieces of equipment down, for public relations. Maybe generate some interest. And people that are there, kids are there, their parents.
Eric, who's hosting that?
And it's Victory Church. And it's going to be on the July 28th from 2 to 5 splash day. If you go on to Victory Church's website, you can see those 2 events listed there. But last year, I think we did usually about 2 hours of work at Whitmer and at Lafayette, but we could do it for all 4.
Thank you, Eric. Great. One more time, anything from the public on any of our topics?
ISO requirements, Insurance Services Organization. Annually, we have all of our hose and ladder tested, all 4 fire companies, and scheduled for the 3rd week of July. So we will have all our hose and ladders tested so we can meet that requirement.
And we also sharing some information about OSHA recommendations.
Yes, that is, there's been several online webinars webinars with that. I've been trying to send out some of that information to you guys. Some of it is repeats. So like there was a webinar today, but I think it was a repeat of what took place last week. There'll be another one next week. There's no new news except for they're still pushing. They haven't voted yet. And there was just recently a message sent out from the PFSEI, which is the Pennsylvania State Lead on the Fire Services and Emergency Services, for you to contact your local congressman and your local representatives. So I know that I submitted that and gave my 2 input. They had already a form letter drafted that you basically sent that to your local representatives. And I had sent that to all 4 fire chiefs so that they could additionally send that in addition to what I had sent. So trying to stay on top of it, but yeah.
So in general, the concern is that OSHA is going to have some kind of universal requirements for volunteer fire companies that is really going to be expensive and hard to implement.
It's going to task us, yes, if they put in health and safety initiatives and, yeah, everything that revolves around the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, and death and dying. And, you know, how well are we dealing with that? So, yes, there's also another there's also another measure in the State House of Representatives, whereas I believe the current SWIFT insurance does not cover like psychological PSTD type related incidents, and there's a move to try and get that to be part of the SWIFT. And I know that municipalities are pushing back because of the additional cost. It's gone through the House of Representatives and it's moving to the Senate. I'm not sure where that's at, but I know there was a write-up in today's Lancaster newspapers in the editorial about it. Yeah, things are changing.
Things to be aware of and monitoring.
I believe the public comment section for the OSHA changes that pushed out the last seminar that I actually got on.
Yeah, I think it's pushed out to June 6th.
Yeah.
They said that they're not looking to put any fire companies out of business, and it will be a slow implementation, maybe 2 years or more, if they do decide to change things. I just struggle with the whole thing. I'm not sure that they even have enough people working for OSHA that would be able to audit and be able to measure compliance. So
It would be a major burden on the volunteer fire service. I think it's very safe to say that from my perspective. I mean, major burden.
So any information I get, I'm sending out to the other fire chiefs and for input, you know, and I can keep you involved too. No problem.
I'm sure we'll get notice of it. And
Just to clarify on the PTSD, PTSD is currently covered by workers' comp. The difference that would happen here is that it would be presumed. Right now, the presumption is that, or the requirement is that the employee has to demonstrate, has to prove essentially that it's work related. This law will change it to be presumed to be related to service in one of the emergency services. So that's the change. Would be expensive, but
okay. No more public comment. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a motion. Second. And a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.